Greetings, travelers. Welcome to Planet Buster. Initiating interstellar in-flight sequence. Powering navigation systems. Broadcast signal established. Thrusters at full momentum. Preparing for Planet Buster's launch in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Planet Buster, the once again two-headed space monster of podcasts, because it's back to just the common two. It's me, Shane, and Dan. What's up, Dan?
Not much. Same old, and it's good to be back here on the show.
Yeah,
again.
we're gonna be, we'd be lying if we said we didn't have Brandon hanging out with us, but, we're gonna have him as the laugh track in the background. He's our, this is our sitcom setup now.
Pretty much. So if you hear like a little something like, "Hey, that's just us trying to be all," I guess network TV. Do they still even do laugh tracks now?
Oh, yeah, dude, they totally do laugh tracks.
Why?
We need to get one of those, because, it would be great to have somebody laughing. So... We'll look into it eventually. But we're back once again for another episode. We're basing it on a movie, but we're not doing a review. We just saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, probably like a lot of you out there, and, you don't need us to tell you that it's good. It's good. It was fantastic. I had a great time. I bet you did too, Dan. I know we saw it together.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is when I saw it with you. It was actually my second time seeing it, so
Right, exactly.
It was pretty good the first time as well as the second time. So I can't really say anything. It was not quite as good as the first one in certain ways, but it was still pretty good. I still had a fun time.
And you know what? To be honest with you, I think it was better than the first one sometimes too. I put them both in parallel with each other. I actually think this is one of the situations where the sequel actually didn't surpass or digress lower than the original, but it did it justice. But let's face it, every person with a video series that's themed in movies and culture, they're all going to tell you, what they think about the movie. So we wanted to talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy. We wanted to talk about the movie franchise, but we wanted to maybe tackle something that's a little less, is the movie good? Because it's good. It's good.
I think what we really want to talk about more or less is why it's become so popular as it has now.
Right. Especially because the Guardians of the Galaxy was one of those things that it was such a long shot. It was a random property that Marvel just went, we'll give this a shot.
I would say it is really one of their very obscure kind of titles, a little more obscure than Ant-Man, because the only ones that were really known was Rocket Raccoon, and that was just because it was a fucking talking raccoon.
Right, and they took this little obscure franchise and they blew it up. It became one of, if not the flagship for Marvel right now. And we wanted to figure out, why? Why are these characters, why is this canon so damn popular?
And personally, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that James Gunn pretty much just put his stamp on these characters.
Right.
And set them up differently. Because, as someone who's read the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff, the original ones, and then when they did, the reboot with Rocket and Drax and Star-Lord and all that stuff, this definitely isn't, those same kind of characters. And even nowadays, they're still trying to remodel everything, the new cartoon show and the video game, all after the interpretation that James Gunn has had. Even, Star-Lord's Affinity for Music. Not really anything in the comics. It was more of, a James Gunn kind of thing. And I feel like that's something that's been interesting there. And I think that's sort of interpretation is, more or less what we're talking about, because when you talk about the original characters, it's like what we said. They were obscure, and they were pretty much just Space Avengers. That's kind of the best I can really say. They were Space Avengers.
They looked like commandos. They looked like they were just superheroes in space.
Yeah, pretty much. They were just kind of superhero space squad. That was just kind of their thing.
Sounds like a '90s Sendai show.
Either that or some really bad attempt at one of those weird '90s shows where they tried to make toys out of it. It's now we had one where they were all mummies and one where they're all sharks, and now they're just fucking in space. Whatever. Here they are on a motorcycle. They're from space.
Oh, check out the rocket ship by the rocket ship. Right. So I think that's what we're coming here to do now. Is just to talk about these characters, talk about the transformation, and just talk about why did this franchise. Why is this the one that like sparked the interest of so many people? So Dan, you definitely have read more of the comic, seen a lot of the original interpretation. So, what were they like before? Because I'm not too big into the original Guardians. I know most of my stuff through the
Right.
film franchise.
I mean, it's kind of like what I was saying before, where it's like they were more or less just the Space Avengers. I mean, literally the very first team was just kind of like they had a Hawkeye guy, they had a Captain America guy, they had a Hulk guy, and that was pretty much what it was for a while. They were pretty much just the Avengers, but in space, and that was kind of what it went. And then they did like it was kind of almost like a soft sort of reboot, and that's where like you got all the main characters that you see in the movies and stuff like that, and it was pretty much the same kind of tone, only instead they were kind of like a police force kind of thing with like matching uniforms and stuff, but again, same basic premise of they're Space Avengers.
Very interesting, considering they live in the same like existence as the Nova Corps.
Yeah, it is kind of weird in that way, and I mean, I'll be personally honest, I kind of prefer this one a little bit more.
It seems like this one makes the most sense. Like I think I know why like this interpretation of the Guardians of the Galaxy was such a big draw for a lot of people, a big attraction. It's because they aren't your typical hero. They're anti-heroes. They're not anti-heroes in like the broody, sad kind of way. They're anti-heroes in they don't just save the world because, or the galaxy in this case, pardon me, because it's the right thing to do. They do it because there could be some profit involved. Sometimes it's for the right thing, mostly through Star-Lord, who's, the human, so we're supposed to see ourselves in Star-Lord.
Yeah, and plus I also think it helps that they're not perfect people.
Right.
As far as it is, because like they all have like these weird faults and these kind of like shady backstories and stuff like that. Especially in the first movie, they're either like a thief or murderer who was raised by this intergalactic tyrants,
Right.
or just an asshole who happens to be a talking raccoon.
Yeah, and even like Star-Lord, he's a Ravager. He steals shit
Yeah,
off
like
the
his whole
planets.
his whole thing is fucking intergalactic women and then stealing shit.
Right. And I think that's where a lot of the attraction comes from, because it's good to be bad. People like the shady character, for lack of a better term. That's why characters, like the Punisher were able to pick up traction, because they did things outside of that pretty squeaky clean, way of doing things. But with the Guardians, it's not, as I said, dark and broody. It's funny. They can crack jokes. They're real people. They're like friends, but they're friends that steal things and blow shit up and shoot stuff with guns.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what I said before too, where I feel like a lot of that is because of James Gunn's kind of stamp on these characters.
Oh, I agree.
Because like again, they're more or less just like your typical kind of comic book characters. None really like too super special about them besides being in space. I might be wrong. I know some people have different interpretations of that, but that was just kind of my interpretation reading it. It was still a good series, but
Yeah.
that was always my kind of interpretation of it. And I feel like what he did was like he kind of put this own spin on these characters that kind of made them, and especially like if you're comparing them to like the other cinematic universe characters,
Yeah.
they're much more like flawed kind of people in certain terms. They're not super smart. They're not really like super strong or super intelligent or super great at their jobs. They just happen to know what they do because that's kind of how they got to survive, or that's just how they got out of a bad situation, or they were thrust in that situation.
Right. It's their job.
Yeah, pretty much. It was their job to either steal shit, kill people, or just survive, pretty much. And like it also helps that like James Gunn kind of put that little stamp that I like to say the movies don't take themselves too seriously, which is kind of the fun part
Right,
about the
right, I agree.
franchise, because like they take like these concepts like it's this, and especially in the second movie, they take this whole concept of this giant race that genetically engineers itself to be perfect, constantly, 100%, the greatest things in the galaxy, and like yet just has these like little moments where it's just like one of them's rolling out a rug and it's just like they can't get the thing open because like they're that pompous, where their queen is not going to touch the fucking snow on a planet.
Right. They very much hammered in the fact that perfection doesn't really exist in the galaxy, which I think is part of the reason why it feels so real. That's like one of the big things with Guardians. It definitely benefits from the Star Trek factor, where you have this familiar crew and they're going to all these different wonderful planets. You get to see the inhabitants. You get to see these different cultures and see your favorite characters interact with these new beings. And you have all of that wrapped in a Marvel candy coating, which let's face it, most of the things Marvel touches is fucking turned to gold in terms of cinematic.
Pretty much. They could put out like, I honestly believe at this point they could put out a Squirrel Girl movie and still like make its money back and no guarantee at this
If
point.
the rumor going around that if they ever make a Squirrel Girl movie, that Anna Kendrick is going to be the actor for it, wouldn't be surprised if it made all its money back. All you need is a popular actor and a fucking weird character that you can make some jokes with, and people will go see it.
Yeah, and I think that's also kind of like one of the things too is like at least for like the movie franchise, unlike say like the Avengers and stuff like that, it's still pretty grounded. You're still dealing with guys in costumes and other guy in costume, and here you're dealing with like way bigger concepts in terms of it. Like the first movie they introduced this concept of Celestials, who are these ancient beings who form these stones of power, and like literally a hideout of like a city is inside one of their heads,
Right.
of a dead god.
And it's actually interesting. Before we go on, obviously spoilers are a thing in our videos. Got to throw that warning out there before people go on. With the arrival of Kurt Russell's character Ego, the Living Planet, Star-Lord's dad, like there's a legitimate living Celestial. Star-Lord is half Celestial, and you have this the storyline of choosing between being a god, being this perfect being, or being human, and Star-Lord picks being human, and kind of a obvious choice in terms of storytelling,
Right.
but it's one of those things that the fans can really connect to. Your average audience will look at that and be like, awesome, this is the guy that represents me. He's a legitimate, just regular guy having some fun and trying to make his way.
Yeah, and I think that does kind of help with them because they aren't very like authoritarian, like authority driven. Like we gotta do right and we gotta do this and we gotta do everything. Like
Not
you
at
see in
all.
your common superhero movies. Like because they're basically just a group of a-holes, as they put it in the movie. They're pretty much just there to kind of like make a little bit money after saving, like doing good things or doing deeds or whatever. But there's also like a connectivity to them because they all are fundamentally like these weird screw-ups who almost like form this weird family like this really weird kind of dysfunctional but yet functional misfit family kind of together, and that I think is like one of the bigger draws because like one of the bigger themes of those kind of movies has been like the family elements. Like, yeah, we yell at each other, but we're family because like we understand each other when we do all this kind of stuff. Instead of where they just throw it in a bar scene, they just kind of expect you to like accept like, oh yeah, I guess they're family. No, they actually kind of establish that, and I feel like that's one of the bigger draws of this franchise is that you do actually feel like these characters are friends and these characters like really respect each other and treat each other and like they will do anything for each other because they've been through so much shit at this point, and because they put these differences and realize like, yeah, we all are kind of fuck ups and we're all kind of weird ass people, so why don't we just band together and prove everyone wrong and we're kind of do good for once.
Right, yeah, you have that important family element. It reminds me of like all the best Dungeons and Dragons parties I've ever been in, because there are those people who play it as like the squeaky clean, we're here to save everybody. But my favorite party I ever played with, but I actually referred to us as like the Guardians of the Galaxy, because we murdered everyone, we stole all of their shit, we fucking like we did it for good, but everyone died. Like there was no middle ground, there was no mercy. But we weren't assholes about it. Like, we weren't evil. And that's what I love about Guardians of the Galaxy. They are able to be, assassins and ravagers and, mercenaries and all of these things. But at the end of the day, they're doing it for a good reason. And they're not, sad about it. They're not broody about it. They're not just, like, angry fucking people in the corner.
Like, yeah, like, there's bad things that have happened.
Oh, yeah, for
you hear
sure.
them, like, the big difference between, like, say, the raccoon in the Rocket Raccoon in the comics and, say, the movie is that in the comics he just comes from a planet full of raccoon beings. So
Right.
there's no real, like, drama between there. But, you know, in the first movie he says, like, you know, he was augmented and basically torn apart and then put back together in, like, some weird alien experience. And you kind of feel something from there. There's a little bit of a deeper edge to that character.
Right.
And you kind of understand a little bit more. And I feel like that's one of the things that also kind of is drawing people to it is, like, these are more fleshed out versions of those characters. I know there's some people who prefer, like, the other versions of the Guardians of the Galaxy because, like, slowly now they're starting to introduce, like, the movie stuff into, like, the comics, like, slowly. Like, for some reason now Star-Lord loves listening to music even though he never used to in the comics.
It's like the slow transformation for Nick Fury where they like turn him into Sam Jackson.
Yeah, it was like slowly where it's like, oh, he's just an alternate universe version. Then like the movies got popular. It's like, well, we could, I guess, phase him out and then introduce his son who happens to be named the same, and then we'll just reboot it and then make him.
Yeah.
Then maybe I don't know. It's comics are weird. Comic books are really
They
weird
are
and kind of
very weird.
confusing.
And then like you have one of the most marketable characters I've ever seen in Groot, who I feel like not only has this great, you know, drawing now because of the fantastic, you know, writing, the fantastic portrayal, but like let's face it, it's Vin Diesel playing well, at least in the first movie, a giant, you know, animated thing that speaks in small sentences. It's the Iron Giant. And a lot of us are like, oh, it's our childhood brought back to life. But, you know, Groot has this great personality, and I believe James Gunn is really able to show his comedy, you know, skills, because you have this character who really doesn't say much, but you know exactly what he's thinking. You can see all of the emotion through him. Like the first movie where he like spears through all the guys and like goes crazy and slams them all and then turns around and gives the smile. Tell me there was no one that was not laughing in that theater.
Oh yeah, like it's kind of like, I don't want to say Gru is kind of like has like this Andre the Giant kind of like big dumb silly guy kind of thing going on, kind of like from the Princess Bride. Like
Anybody want the peanut?
like, yeah, basically it's just like that kind of thing, and I feel like
that was the worst Andre the Giant ever.
Plant Buster wants to apologize to the family of Andre the Giant.
I love
for that
I
terrible
love Andre the Giant.
But I do feel like that's definitely one of the things, because like again, Gru is just kind of like a big tree guy in the books, and here they're kind of like make him a bit more of like, I want to say almost like the kind of mascot heart of the kind of team, where he's, you know, this whole, where he connects the whole theme of family in the first movie, where at first all he can say is like, I am Gru, and then at the end where he's like, no, we are Gru or something.
Yeah, I would definitely agree on that mascot thing. And then you have his appearance in the second movie where he's like the child. He's the kid of the family. And it's absolutely brilliant that he's going through actual puberty as he's like
Exactly.
growing back into his adult form, which, you know, again, great writing. Props to the creative team. But Groot is easily, you know, the most I guess iconic character of the Guardians right now. He's the most recognizable one.
Yeah, and there's not really many other pieces of fiction where you can market a cute talking tree thing.
Yeah.
Because, like, Lord of the Rings has talking trees, but they're not really too cute and marketable to make into dolls.
Oh man,
Like,
yeah.
they kind of look like weird, scruffy old men. You can't really make Treebeard into, like, a
I was
cute
gonna
little
say, come on,
plush.
man, you don't want a Treebeard pop?
No, it kind
don't
of looks
want
weird. It
You
kind
don't
of
want
looks
a
like,
dancing Treebeard?
it looks like a sad old man.
The last dance of the Ents.
But yeah, I think that kind of helps too. But I mean, it really does kind of come back to the movies, because like I know we're like saying like, oh, well, why is Guardians so popular? And I think the biggest answer is it's because of the movies.
Yeah.
It's because of the interpretation that James Gunn gave to those movies and like what he did with the characters, because they weren't, because like even if you're looking at like all the merchandise that's coming out, it's really more geared to the movie version. Like there's a TV show, it uses the movie version. And
There's
the
the
movie
new
look.
there's the new Telltale game that just came out, and it's all themed on the movie version.
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. Like Star-Lord looks like him. He even has like the cassette player and everything like that.
Right.
And like it really is like a pretty good, like it is just a weird franchise in general.
Oh,
if you
yeah.
really think about it, because they deal with like weird shit like living planets, celestial gods, weird mutant space people named Taserface.
Dude,
Even
okay, so,
are not afraid to make a joke about it.
yeah, it's the draw to the exotic. It's kind of like if you go to a fair, and this is gonna show how country we are. It's like when you go to a fair and they have like those wagons that's like, come see the world's biggest pig, and you're like, there's no fucking big pig in there, but you're kind of looking at it going, I'm gonna go see this big ass pig, because you're so confused. Like, there's a bear with a horn in here. Like, really? I have to go see that.
Yeah, it's just a weird idea. So I was like, oh, there's a movie about a talking tree and a talking raccoon with a gun, and they're in space with a wrestler who's painted gray. Yeah, I guess I could kind of see this.
Yeah, I think there were two things that really drew me in to go see the first movie. One was Batista. I'm a big wrestling fan, so I was just like, oh, I have to see how this goes. And I ate all of my words after that first movie and after the second one, because I'd seen Batista in like other things, and I was like, it's probably not going to be that great. And he's so good. He's so good as Drax. It's fantastic casting. But the other thing that drew me in was this like fantastic galaxy that they created. It was this weird world. It was a chance to go on an adventure where everything was strange, but no one acted like it was strange. It's kind of the same thing that brought me into like Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Like, I had no idea about that franchise at all, and we went to see that movie and I fucking fell in love with it. Like, I read all of the graphic novels after. Like, I'm fucking obsessed with it now.
Like, it's kind of almost like the Star Wars kind of effect.
Yes.
Where it's just like, it's this big kind of open world. There's like all this weird mythology and stuff like that, and these weird like aliens and stuff like that, but it draws you in with like this mythology, but also like this very simple story. What's the story of the first movie? Okay, it's some evil empire and they gotta stop it. Okay, that's it.
Right.
And same thing with kind of Guardians, at least in the first movie, it is, alright, there's a big evil dude, we gotta stop him. Okay, that's it. And I think it's like all the building parts around it, because like you don't just remember like, oh man, that was just a really simple story. Like in those terms, like Star Wars and Guardians kind of have both simple stories, but it's the way they kind of use the characters and kind of are able to develop them and make you feel like people, and remember that they're actually people and that they can actually act instead of just be like these wooden pieces of cardboard that are just kind of meant to be parading around. And they just call them, I don't know, Bookbuck, the third-eyed alien belly creature thing. I don't know.
Right.
I'm stretching with that one, but I'm pretty sure that's something that exists.
I think that with the Guardians of the Galaxy too, it was a part of it is like the Avengers effect, where it's a team and you get all of these characters working together, so you can have your favorite character, but you can still appreciate them working as a team. But like the Guardians started as a team. It's not like it was with the Avengers where they all started as separate movies and then came together. Like, they will forever be a unit. When they appear in Infinity War, they will be the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's not like just Star-Lord showing up. All the Guardians of the Galaxy are showing up. So there's that unity there. You recognize them as a team. It would be really weird if just Star-Lord showed up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh hey, it's Star-Lord, but where's Groot and Gamora, and where's Rocket and Drax? Like,
Drax and the weird bug lady they had, Mantis.
oh yeah, Mantis. Which is, I like how they're naturally growing the Guardians of the Galaxy too.
Yeah, and especially that's one of the things that like I think you can basically like say is kind of like a problem that I think like the Guardians franchise is kind of avoiding, is like there's not a lot of development in terms of the sequels. Now there are in terms of like the other MCU sequels,
Right.
but it's not really too rare. Like I'd say like the most consistent of the movies so far has been the Captain America ones, because they've already are developing the characters further.
Which totally proved us wrong, because we all thought the Captain America franchise was going to be the most boring one of them all.
Yeah, no, it's actually the best, and like more or less Thor's kind of almost like sits at the boring one almost.
Which sucks, because the first Thor I had so much fun with. Like, well, at least at the beginning, I had a lot of fun with it. I thought the little, like, middle part where he's just human was kind of boring. But after that, like, I enjoyed the portrayal of Thor. I think Ragnarok looks fucking amazing,
Oh, yeah,
because
I
it
hope-
also capitalizes on that Guardians of the Galaxy thing.
Yeah, and which is the whole tone and style and the bright colors, because this is also one of those ones I think in the franchise it's also like really like bright in the colors, because again they're out in space and aliens, so like you can have weird looking blue and pink and strange like space effects and everything like that.
Yeah, we could even like put that into why Guardians is such a popular franchise right now, because of the color, because the human eye is drawn to color.
Yeah,
and
it just looks unique.
Right. It's not like
It's
dark and fucking. I know I keep saying dark and broody, but like that's a real stereotype with a lot of superhero movies you see, and the Guardians are the exact opposite of that. Even some of the Marvel movies are a little dark compared to Guardians of the Galaxy.
yeah, I mean they still have their jokes here and there, but they're still relatively based on like grounded concepts and stuff like that. Where here they can just do whatever they fucking want. It's like, all right, we got talking tree people, we got living plants, we got a guy who can control an arrow with a thing in his head. Like, not also is it something that doesn't take itself too seriously, but at the same time, it is kind of taking the character stuff seriously.
Oh yeah, like they don't skimp on any of the character development. You can still have fun, but they also consistently talk about like Star Lord's mother who passed away from brain cancer, and like his father who gave her brain cancer.
Like, yeah,
now.
there's like a
it's-
whole arc in that. There's like a whole built-in drive for that character. Is like his mother is like seeing his mother die and being like abducted by aliens, and then like that whole situation.
yeah, like
is
one of the
part
most
his
traumatic
character.
days
Yeah.
you can think of.
Yeah, like there's things for these characters, like even the stuff where like Drax is still like, even though he doesn't show a lot of emotion, there's moments where he still like has these like very strong emotions about losing his family and his wife and his daughter. I mean, like he doesn't show on the outside, but like inside he's like
Yeah,
devastated by it
like
every
that scene,
day.
that scene where he's thinking about it, and like Mantis touches him and feels his pain, and she just starts weeping.
Yeah, and I feel like you don't really have as many of those scenes in like the other movies as much.
Right.
So I feel like there's a little bit more of that kind of like human element that people can kind of relate to, even though like Batista is dressed as an alien who takes everything literally. There's still an emotion.
He's
to
still
it.
human. It's still
Yeah, there's still like a
good
human thing
performance.
to it. It's people dressed up as like freaking aliens, but there's still a humanity to it.
And I think like if we're gonna give a nod to, I'd say one of the biggest appeals to the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, it's nostalgia. Like nostalgia sells. It sells a lot. People will go out of their way to buy things from when they were a kid or when they think like the good times were.
Yeah, it's that 70s and 80s nostalgia, man. It is strong in this franchise.
Dude, like the 80s stuff, they just pluck it just out of that generation, drop it in Guardians of the Galaxy, mix that shit up with a whole bunch of colors, and they're like, here's the best cocktail you've ever had in your
Yeah,
life.
and it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't just feel like it's there to just be like, remember the
No,
80s?
and it makes perfect sense. Like I know it's gonna sound like we're shitting on Suicide Squad, like, or I'm shitting on Suicide Squad. But like with Suicide Squad is like, Suicide Squad is the most comparable movie because they very obviously made modifications to the film to be Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah,
and
definitely.
it definitely felt forced. And here's the thing: I love 80s rock. I love classic rock. And like when I heard Bohemian Rhapsody in the trailer, I was like, oh, this is great. This is fun. But whatever, it's just a song. Meanwhile, Guardians of the Galaxy, they didn't just randomly put the music in because, oh, people like this music. It makes sense to the character. It ties into the character. His mother gave him these mixtapes to, like, keep him company and make him feel better while she was dying.
Yeah.
It's his last, remembrance of his mother. So it ties in well. Like, when he gets fucking destroyed in the second movie, it's not just like, oh, he broke his Walkman. Like, I legitimately felt my heart drop there because it's a big, important, item to the main character. Yeah, like, they didn't just make a soundtrack because it would be popular. Of course it would be popular, and I'm actually really glad it boomed as much as it did because it's a bunch of great music. And you could actually say that Guardians introduced a lot of this music to, like, a new audience, which, thank you for bringing, like, a lot of songs that we grew up with, into the fold.
Yeah, I'm glad Hooked on a Feeling is back in style.
Oh, hell yeah. Like, it felt weird when you were singing that and no one knew what it was. Now you could sing it, and probably most people in the room will jump up and start singing it with
Yeah,
you.
yeah, they'll be
Probably
like, hey,
not.
Star-Lord!
Yeah, actually, they probably won't because you'd be weird and singing in public, but...
They're like, what the fuck is that asshole's problem?
But even the soundtrack is like tied into the character, and that just shows the amount of attention that James Gunn has.
Yeah, and I
that's
feel like that's part of the freedom that he's been given to do
right.
in a way. Because like also the thing is too, the like there are build-ups to like the other universe stuff, but it doesn't feel too weighed down by it.
Oh, it feels natural. It's not like when they introduced the Infinity Stones. I'm not calling them Infinity Gems. They're the Infinity Stones. When they introduced them in the first movie, like we knew about them. We've seen them in other films, but it felt just natural in the Guardians franchise because hey, it's this powerful thing from space, so
Yeah,
of
it's
course
like
they
it's
would
part
go
of the
after
story.
it.
It's like, oh, hey, this is the MacGuffin we have to find, otherwise the world's going to be destroyed. So it ties into the story instead of just this, I guess there's this thing and this other thing, and I guess that's kind of what it is.
Huh? I guess that Loki's staff was an Infinity Stone.
And I guess that elf guy from Thor: The Dark World, I still don't know what the fuck his name is. What is it?
Malekith.
Malekith? Wow, that just shows how fucking memorable he was.
Exactly.
I guess his red aether thing was another Infinity Stone,
Which
maybe?
I don't understand.
I don't know. I forget that movie already.
Yeah, it. I didn't even realize that it was Malekith until after the movie was over. Like I know they said his name, but I was just so bored that I wasn't paying attention. But I think that's like I said, they engage you with that story. I have not seen one thing in Guardians that I've been bored with.
Right, it's a fun franchise. It doesn't take itself too seriously, except for the moments where it needs to be. It's like a perfect franchise that I look at as being like a good summer franchise. And like, even outside, if you're just looking at outside the Marvel Universe kind of stuff, it still can stand on its own thing. Because I feel like they're still setting up this bigger enough world. I mean, granted, in Guardians 3, I doubt they're going to mention Thanos, so that'll be like the weirdest thing.
Yeah,
Part of it. 'Cause,
yeah.
like, I think by that time, like, Thanos is already going to be in like an event, like 2 Avengers movies, so it's going to be a little hard to do that. But I still feel like as a franchise, they already developed enough the characters and they set them up enough where people just started clicking with it because they're these weird misfits and because it's this weird world and because it's just these like out there concepts and because they don't really like pull any punches with it and they just kind of go with it and say like, yeah, it's a weird fucking world, whatever, keep going. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah, this guy is actually going to distract the bad guy by a dance-off just to confuse him because that's the kind of guy he is.
Right.
Whatever, go with it.
They're not afraid to be weird, and I think that's where a lot of the fun comes from.
Yeah.
And with a movie that's fun, you can kind of forgive them if there's like a slip. I really didn't have any things in any of the films that I'm like, I didn't really like this. I've enjoyed both movies, but if there was something that I wasn't too into, I could probably still enjoy it because it's a fun movie and they're not going to take it too seriously. Like the second movie, they're literally not destroying planets, but they're dominating planets, and you're laughing because they're making jokes about daddy issues and like tasteful ones too. They're not just like, haha, if you're weird if you've had issues with your father. It's just kind of like, of course I'm fucked up. My dad's a maniacal planet.
Movie. Like, yeah, this was like a fucking Adam Sandler movie being like, haha, your dad's in a wheelchair.
Right, and that's not a thing. Wow, that's really accurate, actually.
That's pretty much. And then Rob Schneider would play a stereotype of some kind.
He'd be some kind of race that he's not, and it just would be really offensive.
Yeah. I think one of the bigger questions before we wrap up is, because I noticed this has also happened with another popular Marvel character.
Right.
And I'm wondering if this is also going to happen the same with Guardians of the Galaxy, because it's starting to get exposed and become a bigger franchise. We like Deadpool. Deadpool's an awesome character. He's got a lot of cool stuff. He's funny. He's like over the top and all this kind of stuff. But I've also known, like, at a certain point, people have been tired of Deadpool because he's just fucking everywhere.
I've actually been one of those people that's
Where
tired
it's just
of
like,
Deadpool.
Hey, he's Deadpool. You just gotta slap something on, and it's fucking great, isn't it? Do you feel like that could happen with Guardians now that it's become like this viable franchise? I mean, right now the second movie is just like killing at the box office and everything like that. And do you think that could happen with Guardians?
I feel like Guardians, on the path that it's on right now, is not in too much of a danger of like oversaturation, because everything's done in a good quantity. It's done with care. Every step is calculated. It might not seem like it is, but every step is calculated, and the characters are written in a specific way. With Deadpool, while he is a fun character, Deadpool is indeed a very fun character, but he was fucking everywhere on everything for no reason. You're just randomly thrown there. When you have the ability of breaking the fourth wall, you can pretty much get thrown anywhere, and that's what happened with Deadpool. Like, the Guardians, while they are fun characters, they are goofy, they are, ass-kicking, but with a sense of humor, they're still contained in their world. They're contained in their existence, their canon.
Yeah, I don't want to like start seeing like Guardians of the Galaxy kills the Marvel Universe and then kills Abraham Lincoln and then kills Godzilla elephant monster thing because it's kooky and wacky and
Right, it's not that funny. It's I feel like they're gonna keep their humor right. They're gonna stick to what works. Kind of like if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with them, taking a couple risks, being a little weird, and that is enough of a change that you can go, oh, this is different, but it doesn't shake you too much. Whereas Deadpool, like sometimes Deadpool's humor comes off a bit too childish, while these, the Guardians, like Star-Lord specifically, his humor is, sometimes childlike, but it's never too low. It's never too lowbrow. Which is not to say lowbrow humor is bad. It's just there's a time and a place for it. The Deadpool movie worked better for me because it was the right time, it was the right actor, and it was Deadpool's world. That was his movie. So when he can make all of those jokes in his movie, it's perfectly fine. You went there knowing what you were going to get.
Like, my hope is that Guardians doesn't go into that direction, because I know that we're already starting to be like, hey, here's a new Groot series and a Rocket Raccoon series and all these things. I'm like, just chill out. They're just focus on them as characters now. I mean, I don't think the movies are going to go that way, but as far as Marvel, I feel like they're going to do something with them. But as long as the movies are still solid, I'll be fine with it.
I'm going to say that as long as, like, I'm going off of what you said, definitely, as long as the movies are good, we're all set. I think that the movies right now are where the focus is. Because I had no idea that they were planning on doing a fucking Groot series. Good luck with that. I don't know what you can do when all you can say is, I am Groot. That gets boring after a while, and I think if you go that route, yeah, oversaturation is going to be a thing. Groot works because he's in a group of people who actually can have conversation, so when he says something every now and then, you don't get bored of that running gag. So the movie franchise, will remain solid. And they can probably go as long as they want with it.
So I think that concludes our little talking point about the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise.
Yeah, I think we kind of exhausted our opinions at this point.
Yeah, I don't really think there's any more we could go into. I mean, there probably is, but like it would be like 4 or 5 hours, and we'd just be repeating like, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, but you know where you have time for that conversation? In the comment section, which we would really love to hear what you guys have to say. Give us your opinions on the Guardians. You can tell us whether you think it's a good franchise, why it's a good franchise, or you can just yell at us. Because, it's YouTube, and that's what people like to do.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just the whole thing of YouTube.
So, yeah, thanks for listening once again, and I'm Shane.
I am Dan.
And we'll see you next time. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this recent session of having a photon torpedo of awesome blasted into your ear holes, then feed the two-headed beast that is Planet Buster by following us on social media. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and check out our own personal website where we have all kinds of podcast episodes and blogs for you to enjoy. Also, don't forget to check out our friend Brody Milne at his SoundCloud. He's the cool dude who made our sweet theme song. It's pretty awesome. Until next time, see you, space travelers.